have been dull and slow-witted since childhood, while my elder sister is exceptionally talented. At the poetry gathering in the Marquis's mansion, fearing that I would embarrass myself, she secretly wrote a poem on my behalf, unexpectedly. The gathering was meant to select a wife for the second young master of the Marquis's household, and the poem she wrote for me caught his favor later. I married into the Marquis's manor. After the wedding, my lack of wit and intelligence was discovered by Lu Cheng. Only then did he realize that I was not the poet. From that day, Lu Cheng resented me, blamed me, and despised me. He said his wife shouldn't be like me, possessing mere outer beauty but lacking any learning within. Every time we were intimate, he would whisper mockery beside my ear, saying I lacked the dignified grace of a proper wife, and that my only use lay in the seductive charm I displayed on the bed. I grew afraid. Thus, on the day I returned to the poetry gathering, I stopped the sister, who was writing poems for me, my voice trembling. "Thank you, sister, but there's no need." 01. She frowned slightly and said disapprovingly, "But everyone is writing. If you don't, I'm afraid you'll be mocked." But my sister didn't know. The mockery of others was nothing compared to 10 years of grinding hardship in the Marquis's manor, too insignificant to mention. I lowered my eyes, my lips trembling slightly. "But you wrote this episode for me, yet you can't write the next one in my place." My shallowness and lack of wisdom are plain to see. How could they be hidden in front of others? My elder sister was momentarily stunned. After a long while, she gently drew me into her embrace. "Nonsense. My ewer is not shallow at all. When my mother passed away, I was 6 years old, and my sister was 8. At the age of 7, a high fever affected my mind, leaving me dull and slow-witted. I could not concentrate on reading. I often even forgot the simple characters my sister had taught me 1,000 times over. Within just a few years, I became known throughout the capital as the prodigious young lady. My elder sister was overwhelmed with remorse. She blamed my slowness on her failure to notice my high fever late at night and calling for the doctor too late. My elder sister protects me and loves me. Whenever her eyes caught sight of something good, she would always find a way to get it for me. A gentle breeze wound around the pavilion, and tree shadows slanted across. My elder sister gazed at the noble ladies and wealthy heiresses vying to present their poems before the waterside pavilion, then gently stroked my hair with affection. "The purpose of today's poetry gathering at the Marquis's manor is to select a wife for the second young master of the household. I have been a friend of second young master Lu through our literary exchanges for many years. Though he does not inherit a noble title, he carries himself with remarkable grace and is brimming with talent. Our ewer is so wonderful. Only such a fine young man would be a worthy match for her. Besides, he is already aware of your situation. After catching a glimpse of you, he took a liking to you. Before coming to the poetry gathering, he told my elder sister that as long as he submits one poem under your name to appease the elders at the event, he would choose you as his wife and cherish you like a precious jewel in the future. Be good, ewer, let your sister write this one last piece for you. Once you marry into the Yongning Marquis's manor, our ewer's life will be secure from then on." My elder sister spoke softly, urging me to accept it, just as she always did whenever she found a treasure for me. Every word was for my sake, every syllable filled with love. Her words nearly brought me to tears. "But, dear sister, Lu Cheng is not a good man. After our marriage, he found fault with me in every way. He often told me that if I hadn't cheated at the poetry gathering, he would never have married me in that lifetime. I did not live the stable and peaceful life you wished for me. 02 In my past life, it was because of my sister's poem that I married into the Yongning Marquis's household. Everyone envied this marriage. Those who knew my true nature said that Lu Cheng, in his youth, was infatuated and blinded by beauty. Thus, he overlooked my dullness and took me as his wife. I thought so too, until the family banquet. I didn't catch the illusion made by the Marquis's manor's cousin. She covered her mouth and snickered. I originally thought that someone as intelligent as my cousin would prefer a highly talented and refined woman, but unexpectedly, he fancies someone more innocent and carefree. I couldn't detect any ill intent in her words, taking it as a compliment. I pressed my lips together and gave a shy, gentle smile. "Sister, you flatter me." The moment the words fell from my lips, The entire room fell silent. I realized I had misspoken. At a loss, I immediately looked toward Lu Cheng. His expression was grim as he sat beside me, absently tightening his grip on the white jade chopsticks in his hand, showing no intention of helping me out of the awkward situation. Tears welled up in my eyes, just as I was so anxious I was about to cry. A light laugh came from the center of the banquet hall. My younger sister's interpretation of this illusion has a unique charm, but I seem to recall having seen it in a rare edition by some great master. Looking up, the person who came to my rescue was none other than Lu Cheng's most detested elder brother, Lu Jiao, the heir to the marquisate. Back in the room, I threw myself into Lu Cheng's arms and whined coquettishly, aggrieved. "Why didn't you help me out of that awkward situation back then, my dear husband? If it weren't for my eldest brother, I would have been humiliated tonight." Lu Cheng's face instantly turned cold. "The person I detest the most in the entire household is Lu Jiao. You made me lose all face in front of him tonight, and you still have the nerve to mention him. And you, who could write that poem at the poetry gathering, why don't you even know such a simple illusion?" He grabbed my wrist and raised his voice. "Or could it be that the poem written that day wasn't by you?" Only then did I realize that he married me because of that poem. I was momentarily stunned and asked blankly, "If I'm not the one who wrote that poem, would you no longer love me?" Lu Cheng replied with resounding force, "Yes." My heart suddenly turned as cold as ice, holding back tears. I spoke in anger. "That poem was written by my sister to save me from embarrassment. Since you don't like me, why don't we part ways?" That night, Lu Cheng slept in the study, holding the bedding. I cried until my eyes were swollen. From then on, Lu Cheng treated me as if I didn't exist. I was also raised by my elder sister with the care one would give to pearls and treasures. I also kept a straight face, regarding him as dust. Our estrangement was discovered by the old madam. Lu Cheng was summoned to the main courtyard and given a scolding. At night, he who always slept in the study returned to my room. Ignoring my resistance, he untied the ribbon of my skirt, his eyes bloodshot. "If you hadn't cheated at the poetry contest, why would I have married you? Lu Jiao must marry a talented woman. I am already inferior to him in every way. Once his wife crosses the threshold, you will surely be compared to her and trampled into the mud, bringing shame upon me. I truly regret marrying you. My wife should not be a woman like you, one who has nothing but a pretty face on the outside and not a drop of learning inside. Lin Yu, you were the one who insisted on marrying me. From now on, no matter how I treat you, you just bear with it." From that day on, Lu slept in my room every night. He entangled with me as if never wearying. I am reluctant. He pinched my chin, chased after my lips for a kiss, and said in a contemptuous tone, "You lack the dignified grace of a proper wife. Your vixenish charm is only of some use in the bedchamber. So why put on this pretentious act of a chaste maiden?" His cutting words wounded me to the core, every single one a sting. Large teardrops fell one after another. Lu Cheng turned a deaf ear, applying even more force. I was scared, but every time I thought of leaving without a care, Lu Cheng, who served in the Ministry of Personnel, always threatened me with my sister and brother-in-law's official careers. "If you dare set one foot outside the Marquis's manor without my permission, your sister and brother-in-law can rot in Lingnan for the rest of their lives." So when I accidentally fell into the water, I sank beneath the jade-green lake, my thoughts drifting in a daze. If only I could do it all over again, I would never marry him. 03 Fortunately, I can start over. I pressed my lips together and still shook my head. "No, I don't want to steal sister's talent anymore." Sister chuckled, then tapped me on the forehead. "How is this stealing? If Yua wants it, whether it's the moon in the sky or the frost on the ground, I will find a way to keep it for you." I bit my lower lip lightly and added, "What if? I don't want to marry the second son of the Yongning Marquis mansion. Since our father remarried, we sisters have become invisible in the household. No elders care for our daily needs, and no one helps us plan for our marriages. In my previous life, I was able to marry Lu Cheng without a hitch. It must have taken a great deal of effort on my sister's part. I don't want my sister's hard work to go to waste, but life in the Marquis's residence was too bitter, and in this life, I don't want to endure it again." I lowered my head. I dared not meet my elder sister's disappointed eyes. but my elder sister said, "So it's that Yua doesn't like him. Alright, then I won't write for you this time." I jerked my head up and met my elder sister's smiling eyes. I couldn't hold back anymore. I burst into tears and threw myself into my elder sister's arms. But this took so much of your effort." She caught me with a smile. "It's alright, your sister still has several pen pals around Yua's age. We can take our time choosing." She gently wiped away my tears and said earnestly, "Yua, you are the most precious treasure I have left in this world for my sister. No matter what you have done, you need not feel any guilt toward her. Alright, if you don't want to marry Lu Cheng, then don't. Why cry and make your sister's heart ache? Stop crying now, your sister will take you home." After bidding farewell to the Marchioness of Chaohu Manor, I trailed behind my elder sister as we walked along the verdant corridor. I had walked the corridors of the Marquis's manor for 10 years, but never had I felt as light-hearted as this. A warm breeze brushed my face, the sky was clear and the sun bright, and spring sunshine filled the space beneath the eaves. Lu Cheng stepped out from the corner with wide sleeves and a long robe, his raven hair with a jade hairpin, and delicate, handsome features. He embodied an effortlessly elegant and unrestrained demeanor. Anyone who saw him would praise him as a graceful and exemplary young gentleman. My elder sister turned sideways to shield me behind her and greeted him on my behalf. "Second young Master Lu, thank you for your hospitality. I apologize for my sudden illness, which makes it inconvenient for me to stay long. I will take my sister home first." Lu Chengjun frowned slightly, shifted his gaze, and let it fall lightly on me. Then, "Your younger sister," my elder sister calmly picked up the conversation. "A few days ago, I indulged a bit too much and ended up scribbling all sorts of nonsense on paper. Please don't laugh at me, second young master." Lu Cheng's gaze remained fixed as he chuckled softly. "Nonsense?" Elder sister offered a faint smile. "Yes, second young master, please don't take it seriously." But Lu Cheng said without hesitation, "What if I do take it seriously?" He frowned, his tone displeased and puzzled. "Lin Hui, aside from me, who else can you entrust your foolish little sister to?" His tone was far too certain. It infuriated my sister, who cherished me like a treasure. Her face instantly turned cold. "Second young master, mind your words. My Yua is sweet and innocent. She's always been the one doing the choosing. Someone like you, second young master, would never catch her eye." I suppressed the fear of Lu Cheng from my past life. Peeking out from behind my elder sister, I quickly added, "In this life, Lin Yu would rather spend her days with oil lamps and ancient Buddha than have anything to do with you. Second young master, my marriage is none of your concern." Second young master Lu, under Lu Cheng's livid gaze, my sister took me away with an air of nonchalance. 04 After returning to the residence, my sister's anger had yet to subside. After all these years of literary friendship with him, I never saw that he was such an arrogant man. It infuriates me to death. With that, she patted her chest again, looking utterly relieved. "Fortunately, you don't like him. If you had married him, you would have suffered his torment for a lifetime." My nose stung, and I nearly burst into tears. If my elder sister knew that I had endured Lu Cheng's torment for 10 years in my past life, how she would blame herself. And when the news of my drowning reached her ears, how her heart would ache. "I can't think about it anymore. I will not marry Lu Cheng in this lifetime." Then naturally, my elder sister won't be sad. My elder sister didn't notice my absent-mindedness. She murmured to herself, "Yua, tomorrow I will take you on a spring outing to meet another friend of mine in letters 1,000 times better than Lu Cheng. His name is Lu Jiao, the elder brother of Lu Cheng and the heir to the Yongning Marquisate. Gifted since childhood, he is renowned throughout the capital, and it is often said that his future in officialdom will be smooth and unimpeded, although he is somewhat aloof and disdainful of fools. I initially thought the two of you might not be well matched. But on second thought, our Yua is so adorable that she is more than worthy of him." I was momentarily stunned. Lu Jiao, the person who helped me out of a difficult situation in the banquet hall in my previous life, he indeed held a high position, but just as my sister said, he utterly despised fools. The old matriarch of the Marquis's mansion often urged him to evaluate potential wives. He always said indifferently, "I don't like unintelligent women." This infuriated the old matriarch so much that she flung her sleeve and slammed the table. There's no such thing as an unintelligent woman. Do you think other girls are like your sister-in-law? The old lady swallowed the second half of her sentence abruptly, aware of my presence. I suppose I've grown accustomed to being mocked. I lowered my head obediently. My heart undisturbed. Lu Jiao, however, said, other young ladies indeed lack the inner brilliance of my sister-in-law. I suddenly looked up, and Lu Jiao was smiling right at me thus. No matter how cold and aloof Lu Jiao appeared in others' eyes, in my eyes, he has always been gentle and courteous in terms of character. He is indeed, as my sister said, 1,000 or 10,000 times better than Lu Cheng. It's just that Lu Jiao has no intention of settling down in the previous life. Up until I fell into the water, he had never married, therefore, sister's plan to marry me off to him is likely to fail. Yua, what do you think of him? Would you like to meet him? Seeing sister ask me with such enthusiasm, I didn't want to dampen her spirits. I leaned affectionately on sister's shoulder and smiled with satisfaction. I'll do whatever sister says. 05 Mid-spring, fragrant gardens and green fields in her past life. No matter how much the old matriarch of the Renping Marquisate tried to persuade her, Lu Jiao never once relented to meeting any potential match, yet she never expected that her sister could actually convince Lu Jiao to keep an appointment today. How amazing! I furrowed my brows, pondering slowly, so slowly that I stumbled into a small pit, fell into Lu Jiao's arms, and still just stared blankly at him. Lu Jiao held me close and reached out to steady me. His voice was as pleasing as the chime of jade striking jade, as he asked with concern, "Second Miss Lin, are you hurt?" Only then did I belatedly feel a flush rise to my cheeks, and I quickly thanked him. "No, I'm fine, thank you, young Marquis Lu," he chuckled softly. "Don't mention it, thanks to your fall, we finally have a sense of truly seeing each other." I suddenly looked up, meeting Lu Jiao's gaze, his eyes brimming with a smile. He made no effort to hide the joy nearly overflowing from him, nor do they avoid my gaze, letting me look my fill, and looking their fill of me in return, so straightforwardly that the rosy clouds which had just faded from my face began to rise again. I looked helplessly toward my elder sister, who was strolling hand in hand with my future brother-in-law up ahead. I wanted to ask her how to handle the situation before me, but her figure was blocked by a detestably large hand. Lu Jiao's well-knuckled hand waved before my eyes. He said with a smile, "I am the one you should be looking at, not always your elder sister." But in his previous life, he had no intention of marrying. I can't keep my thoughts bottled up. I couldn't find my sister to ask for help again. After hesitating for a moment, I pursed my lips and asked, "Do you truly intend to take a wife, as soon?" As the words left my mouth, I felt how utterly absurd they sounded. After thinking for a moment, I added with a serious expression, "Actually, I can read faces. I saw that in your past life, you refused to take a wife and lived freely and carefree, hence the question." Lu Jiao froze briefly, the slight curve of his lips suddenly flattening in a moment unnoticed by anyone. A flicker of pain, tenderness, and the wild joy of finding something long lost crossed his face. In an instant, he smiled slowly. "Again, whether in past or present lives, if I am unwilling to marry, there is only one reason, that I cannot marry the one I love." Lu Jiao gently stroked my head, his expression earnest. "Yua, I fell for you at first sight. I pledge my whole life to take you as my wife and protect you, free from worries. 4 years to come. Do you wish to marry me?" 06 In the previous life, when Lu Jiao and Lu Cheng were at odds, he was still willing to come to my defense, his sister-in-law. If I were to become his wife in this life, it would not be a bad thing. At the very least, he wouldn't stand by indifferently while I was being ridiculed. Then my thoughts turned to my elder sister and her repeatedly postponed wedding date with my future brother-in-law. I paused for a moment, then picked up my brush to write back to Lu Jiao, "I am willing to marry you. If possible, please come to my home to propose marriage in 3 days." There were no lingering, passionate words of love. I told Lu Jiao directly my willingness to marry him. Elder sister stood beside me, watching me write one clumsy, rounded character after another. She gritted her teeth in frustration. Lu Jiao only showed up once and already won our US heart. He truly lucked out, gazing at my sister's bright and vivid eyes. I pursed my lips into a soft smile. Now, my sister should be at ease. Surely she won't sneak into my room in the dead of night anymore, lying by my bed and quietly crying, no matter past life or this. 1. She was always afraid that after she got married, I would be bullied in the Ming Mansion. 07. Lin Yu's letter arrived at Yongninghu Mansion. Lu Zhao's servant hurried towards his courtyard with the letter tucked in his arms. These past few days, Lu Zhao had been asking regularly whether there was any letter from the young lady of the Ming Mansion. After much anticipation, the day has finally arrived. The young servant hurried through the garden, thinking he must let the heir see the letter as soon as possible, but unexpectedly, a strong wind blew along the way. The thin letter paper was swept away by the wind, spun in the air a few times, and then fluttered to the ground. The young servant hurried to pick it up. Unexpectedly, someone else was quicker. The letter was pinched between the fingers of the mansion's second young master, Lu Cheng. Amid the servant's exclamation, he opened the letter. The letter was just 2 lines long, very short. Lu Cheng chuckled at the sight and said to himself, "Now you're saying you're willing to marry me. I don't even want to get married yet. Propose in 3 days. As if, Lin Yu, even if you wait until dark 3 days from now, I won't show up. I'd like to see who else would be willing to marry you besides me." With that, he tossed the letter aside, flicked his folded fan, and left cheerfully. He walked off in a hurry. Thus, he did not hear the young servant's remark, "Second young master, you've misunderstood. This letter belongs to our heir." 08. The bluebird sends no word from the clouds beyond. In vain the lilac knots its sorrow. Lu Zhao has been restless these past few days. He fears Lin Yu's letter will never come, and fears even more that it will come only to gently refuse him, even more afraid of missing her again in this life. Suddenly, a servant's voice rang out from the courtyard, young master, a letter has arrived today from the second young lady of the Ming family. Has she finally written back?" Lu Zhao couldn't wait any longer. With a leap, he vaulted over the windowsill. He quickly walked over to the young servant and snatched the letter from his hand. Then, with trembling hands, he unfolded the letter. "I am willing to marry you. If possible, please come to the residence in 3 days to propose marriage." Just 2 short lines. Lu Zhao silently repeated them over and over in his heart. Finally, pointing at the letter, as if in disbelief, he sought confirmation from the young attendant beside him. "She is willing to marry me. Is that so? Am I seeing this right?" The letter was forced before his eyes. The young servant saw 2 lines of round, clumsy large characters. He couldn't help but recite, "I am willing to marry you. If possible, please come to my residence to propose in 3 days." Looking up again, he met the expectant gaze of the young prince. The young servant nodded heavily. "Yes, the second Miss Ming is willing to marry you. You saw it correctly." As soon as the words fell, the servant saw the once aloof and composed young heir reveal a foolish, ecstatic smile. "Ha ha ha, wonderful, you are as willing to marry me." The young servant knew that Lu Zhao had long been deeply in love with the second Miss Ming. He also grinned happily and said, "That's right, our manor is about to have a wife of the heir." As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly remembered the mishap that occurred while he was fetching the letter. The young servant frowned and recounted the encounter with Lu Cheng in detail, leaving nothing out. When the servant vividly repeated Lu Cheng's words, "Let me see who else would be willing to marry you besides me," Lu Zhao laughed in fury. In the previous life, if Lin Hui hadn't been in such a hurry to find a good match for Yue, how could a fool like Lu Cheng have deserved to marry her? And after marrying her, he still didn't cherish her, wasting her away for years on end. In the end, it cost her her life. At the thought of this, Lu Zhao wished he could drink his blood and devour his flesh. An intimidating chill radiated from him. It frightened the attendant standing by into holding his breath. After a long moment, the young servant hesitated, then asked in a murmuring voice, "Then, should we still explain to the second young master that this letter isn't for him?" It seems to me that the second young master might have misunderstood something. The heir and the second young master had always been at odds. The second young master resented the crown prince for being more outstanding in knowledge than him. Moreover, the crown prince was born earlier, which took away his position as heir. But after all, they were brothers born of the same father and mother. What if the second young master only later found out that this letter was not meant for him? I'm afraid he'll come to cause trouble for the young heir. The brotherly bond is even worse, the servant thought to himself, but Lu Jiao said in an indifferent tone, "Didn't you say so?" He didn't hear it himself. Who's to blame? Before successfully marrying Yue, Lu Cheng had better not know anything at all. Lu Jiao stood beside the dull-witted young servant, thinking with a blank expression. 3 days later, Lu Jiao arrived at the residence as promised, presenting the betrothal gifts, requesting the birthdate slip, matching the 8 characters, divining an auspicious date, delivering the betrothal letter in just 4 days. My engagement to Lu Jiao was settled in the hall. My father smiled obsequiously at Lu Jiao. This daughter of mine is dull and slow-witted. Even becoming a concubine to the heir would be reaching beyond her station. By sheer luck, the heir has taken a liking to her and insists on marrying her as his legitimate wife. I only hope that after the wedding, she will be gentle, virtuous, and bring harmony to the household and the world, so as not to disappoint the heir's affection. My father has always had a talent for making a spectacle of himself. My sister and I kept our heads lowered, afraid to show even a hint of unfilial smile in front of others. The teacup was set down heavily on the table with a sharp clatter, cutting short my father's belittling of me. Lu Jiao cast a cold glance at him and said in an indifferent tone, "The letter of betrothal has been sent, the wedding date is set. She is my future wife, a future lady of the court. Please mind your words, uncle." Watching my father's face turn ashen, his anger barely suppressed, I lowered my head, the corners of my lips curling up. Despite myself, when I looked up again, Lu Jiao was gazing at me with tender affection. The moment our eyes met, my heart leaped, instantly thrown into utter chaos. The sudden surge of emotion caught me off guard, and I blushed, unsure of what to do. Not far apart, Lu Jiao was smiling, my elder sister was smiling too. Thus, I blushed and laughed as well. The pair of wild geese that Lu Jiao brought as a betrothal gift were extremely noisy. They upset my state of mind so much that I tossed and turned. Unable to sleep at night, moonlight cast frost upon the ground, leaving the room desolate and cold, until the door creaked open. The door opened and then closed again. Elder sister gracefully walked to the bedside. I closed my eyes, pretending to be fast asleep. She leaned over to tuck the corner of the blanket around me, afraid I might catch even the slightest chill. My elder sister started crying again. Her sobs were soft and broken, her voice choked with tears. When mother was still alive, she often told me that father was unfeeling and disloyal, unworthy as a father, unworthy as a husband, unworthy as a son. She said she had failed us sisters by giving us such a father, so before she passed, she exhausted herself to arrange a betrothal for me. But when it came to Yue's turn, she could not even lift a finger. When she passed, her eyes remained open, and it was I who reached out to close them. I understand my mother's worries. She knew that after she was gone, once Yue came of age, father would surely use Yue's marriage to trade for the benefits he sought. I was afraid too, which is why these past 6 months I've been in constant dread, terrified that after I left home, I would not have found a good home for Yue. Fortunately, everything has turned out well. Yue is to marry into the Yongning Marquis manor. Sister is truly so happy today. I turned over, my back to sister, afraid that she might notice the tears streaming down my face. In a past life, on the night Lu Cheng sought to marry her, sister spoke just like this. After mother passed away, my elder sister treated me extremely well. She worried that I wouldn't eat well, that I wouldn't grow tall, that others would bully me. I've always known that I am a burden to my elder sister. The repeated postponement of her engagement to her fiancé was also because of me. 6 months ago, my sister's future mother-in-law spoke to me with a smile, her words dripping with implication. If you don't end up well settled, I'm afraid Lin Hui won't set foot in our house. Second Miss Ming is truly blessed to have a sister who plans everything for her. My sister was anxious, and so was I. Thus, though I did not like Lu Cheng, I still married him unexpectedly. He met an untimely end, reborn into the past. I avoided Lu Cheng, chose Lu Jiao, a man of noble character. In this life, I think I will no longer be worn down by suffering, only to end up drowning to death that way. My sister will not grieve. I closed my eyes and drifted into a drowsy sleep. Amid my sister's tearful and laughing murmurs in my dream, Mother smiled and said to me, "Yua, this is an excellent match. Rest assured and go ahead with the marriage." 11. Red silk rolled across the long street, firecrackers crackling in unison. My elder sister smiled and said to me, "Only Lu Zhao's looks are barely worthy of our Yua." My sister-in-law's praise suddenly made me curious. With the utmost care, I lifted a corner of the bridal veil, and saw Lu Zhao standing tall and straight as a pine, his usually indifferent eyes and brows stripped of their aloofness by the red wedding robe, taking on a hint of cheer on this joyous day. His gaze caught me peeking. He slowly walked toward me, extended his hand, and said with a slight smile, "My lady, I have come to welcome you." A gentle breeze stirred the spring water in the courtyard pool, disturbing the heart and sealing a beautiful union. I placed my hand in Lu Zhao's palm and bit my lip shyly. "All right." Amid the sound of ceremonial music, I stepped into the bridal sedan chair. I bowed to the high elders, entered the bridal chamber, and had my red veil lifted on the red bed. I took the nuptial wine cup handed to me by Lu Zhao. At first, I sipped the wine in small measures. Then, Lu Zhao fed me the wine mouth to mouth. I trembled and nestled into his arms. As our breaths intertwined, a bit of the wine accidentally spilled from my lips. Reluctant to let it go, Lu Zhao lowered his head and gently licked it away, layer upon layer of. The red wedding dress blossomed like peonies in the late spring rain. Petals fall one by one. The room is filled with a charming atmosphere. As silk drapes drift down, suddenly, a night breeze arrives like a joyful spring wind, accompanied by the faint, fragmentary sounds within the room. They lasted until dawn. 12. The first light of morning lit up the beams of the house, and a bird arrived at the window, chirping to announce the clear sky. Lu Zhao dismissed the maidservant who had offered to paint my eyebrows, then leaned down and picked up the brush. As he painted, he recounted the situation within the household to me. "My family is simple in size. Aside from the old madam, my father, and my mother, there are no other elders in the household. Concubines and maidservants, which are common in other families, are forbidden here. Therefore, you only need to pay respects to the three elders, the old madam, my father, and my mother, and need not concern yourself with anyone else." I already knew this from my past life. Only I pressed my lips together and still asked, "I heard that a cousin is staying at your residence. What gift should I prepare for her? And Lu Cheng, I haven't seen him since the poetry gathering, not even at yesterday's grand wedding." In my heart, I rejoiced that the wedding with Lu Zhao had gone smoothly, yet at the same time, a hidden worry arose, like a sword hanging yet to fall. At the poetry gathering, my elder sister and I broke our promise to marry him after composing poems, and a disagreement arose between us. Now I have married his own brother. I'm just afraid he might embarrass me in front of the elders. Lu Zhao let out a scoff, full of disdain. "Since she's just a cousin staying as a guest, why should we stand on ceremony with her? Just pick a copy of the Analects and give it to her. Let her learn more about benevolence, righteousness, propriety, wisdom, and trustworthiness, so she stirs up less trouble and stops doing foolish things." After saying this, Lu Zhao produced a kingfisher feather jade hairpin from somewhere and loosely pinned it into my hair bun. "Oh, right, I also have a twin brother named Lu Cheng." He bent down to examine the position of the hairpin for a moment, then gave a mocking smile and said, "Though we share the same mother, he is far too stupid. We've never gotten along, so you don't need to bother with him either. From today onward, you don't need to pay your respects to the grand matriarch and mother every day. Just go on holidays. Going too often will annoy them." I was momentarily stunned. Is that all right? In my previous life, Lu Cheng had constantly drilled this into me. Although there are few people in the Yanghu mansion, the rules cannot be set aside. Hence, even though the grand matriarch and my mother-in-law said it would be fine to simply pay respects during the festivals, I dare not slack off and often go to their courtyards to present my respects. The young lady staying in the mansion as a guest does not. Like me, I greet her with a smile as usual, and always prepare gifts for her during the holidays. But now, Lu Zhao says there is no need. Nature. He lowers his gaze with a smile, bends down, and kisses my lips. "You are my wife, there is no reason for you to be bullied." My heart suddenly felt warm. and my nose stung slightly. I reached out and wrapped my arms around Lu Jiao's waist. Leaning against him, I whispered sincerely, "Lu Jiao, marrying you is wonderful." 13. After the unpleasant parting between the poetry club and Lin Yu, Lu Cheng deeply regretted it. In his previous life, he had never had a quarrel with Lin Yu before marriage, suppressing his true nature until after they were wed. Having just been reborn, he had yet to adjust. This angered Lin Yu and Lin Hui. Lin Yu, being slow-witted, was still easy to handle, but Lin Hui was a different matter. Her younger sister was her sore spot. What she hated most was others mocking Lin Yu, but what he said in the corridor at that time was very hurtful. Lu Cheng was very upset. He had been thinking for days but still couldn't figure out a way to calm Lin Hui's anger. In the warmth of mid-spring, flowers fade and bloom again. Lu Cheng flicks his folding fan, venting the frustration in his heart. Suddenly, a warm breeze rises, and a letter flutters down at his feet. His eyesight is exceptionally sharp at first glance. The large, familiar, clumsy handwriting on the envelope caught his eye. To Mr. Lu, personal. It was from Lin Yu. She must have regretted what she said to him at the poetry gathering. Lu Cheng opened the envelope without a second thought. The letter contained only 2 short sentences, yet it filled Lu Cheng with overwhelming joy. "I am willing to marry you. If possible, please come to my residence to propose marriage in 3 days." Lu Cheng laughed, but then he recalled that Lin Yu had said she wouldn't marry him, and his annoyance returned. "Now you say you're willing to marry me. I don't even want to get married yet. Come to propose in 3 days, Lin Yu. Even if you wait until dark 3 days from now, I won't show up. I'd like to see who else would be willing to marry you besides me." Lin Yu was not present naturally. This wasn't said for her to hear, he was merely saying it to himself. He liked Lin Yu, even though he often found her foolish, but liking is just liking. In a second life, he would still choose her. Having said his piece, he tossed the letter aside, flicked his folding fan, and left in high spirits. He left quickly and urgently. He needed to ask his mother to propose marriage on his behalf to Lin Yu. His mother was still angry that he hadn't chosen a wife at the poetry gathering. He had to first go to the market to buy his mother's favorite Osmanthus cakes, and then plead with her. The more Lu Cheng thought about it, the more delighted he felt. But by the time he returned with the Osmanthus cakes, he had no chance to go and find his mother. His superior sent someone to his residence saying there was an urgent matter outside the capital that required his immediate attention. Lu Cheng hesitated as he looked at the Osmanthus cake in his hand. After a moment, he handed it to a servant, mounted his horse, and rode off. Going out would only take a few days. It wouldn't be too late to propose to Lin Yu when he returned anyway. In this life, he would treasure Lin Yu well. He would not let others bully her, nor would he constantly put her in difficult positions, and he would never argue with her to the point of causing her to fall into the water and drown. In this life, they still have plenty of time. 14. Passing through the Green Eaves Gallery, the hall was just around the corner. Not far away, warm sunlight poured in, with 4 or 5 figures in the hall. From a distance, a familiar voice could be heard. "Oh my, our Marquis's heir, who's always kept away from women, has actually gotten married, and the wedding was so rushed, right when I was away on business. I'm his own twin brother, yet I didn't even get a glass of wine to share in his joy." Lu Jiao took my hand and slowed his pace to match mine. When we reached the door, he called back loudly, "Indeed, your elder brother is at fault for this. Once your sister-in-law has paid her respects to the elders, I will surely send a jar of bamboo leaf wine to your courtyard. I won't let you miss out on the joy of your elder brother and sister-in-law." With these words, Lu Jiao said to me gently, "Mind the threshold at your feet." I nodded slightly, lifted my foot to step over the threshold, and appeared in the hall with a thud. The teacup on Lu Cheng's table was overturned. Under the elder's puzzled gaze, he suddenly stood up, eyes fixed intently on me beside Lu Jiao. His fingers pressed against the table had turned white from strain. He asked in disbelief, "May I ask, sister-in-law, what is your surname and given name, and which family's daughter are you?" Word by word, as if weathered by wind and sand, rough and hoarse. After paying my respects to each of the elders in turn, I performed a distant bow toward him. "My surname is Lin, given name Yu, daughter of a minor official in the capital." The second young master likely does not recognize me. Suddenly, Lu Cheng erupted, kicking over the tea table and striding toward me. Impossible, how could you marry him? You were supposed to marry. Lu Jiao immediately stepped in front of me, blocking the shattered teacup, wood splinters, and the frantic Lu Cheng. He placed his hand on Lu Cheng's shoulder and, with a firm push, sent him tumbling to the ground. Lu Cheng's words were cut off. Lu Jiao looked at him on the ground and spoke in an indifferent tone. Lu Cheng, mind your words. Then, without changing his expression, he took me along to bid farewell to the elder, whose face was filled with anger. He put his arm around me and we walked back up the same corridor not far from the hall. Faint sounds could still be heard. Unfilial son, what did you just say to your elder brother and his wife? What? His wife? That is clearly mine. What nonsense are you spouting? Guards, bring me the whip. I will beat this insolent, overstepping unfilial son to death today. Suddenly, his ears were covered by Lu Jiao. He stopped walking, a hint of displeasure appearing on his brow. Are you worried about him? Your ears are perking up like a little deer's. Me. I tilted my head in surprise. Lu Jiao pursed his lips and nodded. I shook my head and said, no, I just wanted to hear how many strikes father was going to give him. As soon as I said this, I felt that my dislike for Lu Cheng was becoming a bit too obvious. I added, it was only recently that I attended your Marquisite's poetry gathering. When I left my seat, my sister and I happened to run into him, and we had some unpleasant exchanges, which is why, so you're gloating over him getting beaten up. Lu Jiao took over the conversation, his gloomy expression clearing up. I nodded repeatedly. Lu Jiao smiled, it's fine if you don't care about him. You are my wife. You can only care about me. While speaking, we returned to the courtyard. No sooner had we stepped inside than the door creaked. The view immediately dimmed slightly. I sat before the dressing table, feeling somewhat perplexed. Why close the door? My maid hasn't yet removed my ornaments and helped me change into plain clothes. Someone bent down from behind and wrapped their arms around my slender waist, placing a trail of soft kisses from top to bottom amid the gentle breaths. Lu Jiao spoke in a tender tone, such trifling matters, your husband will handle for you. In an instant, the hairpin fell to the ground, and her clothes slipped off. That day, I never left the room. 15. The third day after the wedding, Lu Jiao went to find the steward to confirm the gifts for the bride's return visit. I obediently sat in the courtyard, waiting for him to arrange everything properly before returning to my family home with him. Since my rebirth, this was the first time I had been apart from my sister for so long. I missed her so much. But then I realized that without Lu Cheng causing trouble in this life, my elder sister won't have to go to Lingnan with her husband for his post. I feel happy again in this life. Even if we each marry, we can still see each other every now and then. As I think about this, the corners of my lips curl upward. Suddenly, a sinister male voice came from above. Are you that happy to marry him? Startled, I looked up to see Lu Cheng jump down from the high wall. I clutched my chest and stepped back repeatedly. You, don't be insolent. This is your elder brother's courtyard. Lu Cheng gave a bleak smile. Are you so afraid of me? I lowered my head, timid and silent. Lu Cheng said again, clearly nothing has even started yet, and we have a chance to start over. So why did you so easily marry someone else? I stepped back, shaking my head. I don't know what you're talking about. You can still leave now, or else I'll call for help. I take a step back. Lu Cheng takes a step forward. He smiles nonchalantly. Go ahead, yell, I want you. Who in this world could possibly stop me? Seeing a figure not far away, I suddenly smiled. Fortunately, all my efforts to devise a way to send everyone away and create a moment alone were not in vain. I forced out tears and cried out miserably, Grand Empress Dowager, father, mother, husband, please save me. My brother-in-law has somehow gone mad. He suddenly barged into the courtyard and said many strange things to me. That day, the Grand Empress Dowager, my father-in-law, and mother-in-law all had ashen faces. My husband gently shielded me in his arms. He didn't even look at Lu Cheng, who was lying on the ground, beaten so badly that he couldn't get up. With a cold face, she said to her father-in-law, to insult my wife is to insult me. Lu Cheng's words and actions are outrageous, his character dubious, and he is unfit for refined company. if this continues, he will surely bring shame to the Marquis's manor. With all this, do you still insist on protecting him? Since everyone is gathered today, make your choice, him or me. If you choose him, from this day on, my wife and I will have no further ties with the Marquis's manor. Choose me. After Yua and I return from visiting her parents, I don't want to see him in the mansion. With these words, he took my hand and led me toward the carriage. He whispered in my ear, "Don't be afraid, Yua, by the time we return, this scoundrel will surely be gone." My eyes lit up, and I nodded firmly. 16. Returning to Ming Mansion, my elder sister's eyes reddened at the sight of me. She took my hand, looking me over again and again, afraid that I might not have been doing well over these 3 days at Yongning Marquis's mansion. Truly saw nothing else. It was only then that my elder sister asked, "Has he been good to you?" I lower my head and smile shyly. "Excellent." My elder sister was dazed for a moment. Her expression first fell, then brightened with joy. "That's good. From now on, I can rest assured, sister." I smiled faintly. Suddenly, my sister added, "In a month, he and I will be married. After that, we sisters will be spending our days in separate households." Somehow, sister suddenly felt a bit uneasy. Now that we no longer live under the same roof, will our bond remain as strong as it is now? Yua, would you ever suddenly stop speaking to sister? What if sister and your brother-in-law have to go far away for his new post? Would I stop receiving your letters? In my previous life, until the time of my death, I exchanged letters with my elder sister every month. But if, after my death, no one brings the news to Lingnan, would my sister be as anxious as I am now when she stops receiving my letters? The very thought of this scene makes my tears fall uncontrollably. I threw myself into my elder sister's arms and assured her, "No, I won't suddenly ignore you, sis, not in this lifetime. No matter how far apart we are, my heart will always think of you, sis." 17. After returning to the mansion, I felt gloomy for a while. Lu Jiao held me and coaxed, "If you miss your sister, we can go visit her anytime. Yua, I support everything you want to do." Perhaps I have fallen in love with Lu Jiao. My mood gradually improved in his company. When I learned that Lu Cheng had been exiled to Lingnan that very evening, I even ate half a bowl more rice on the bed with my head resting in Lu Jiao's embrace. I asked, "How did he get demoted?" "It's only natural for an arrogant and conceited person to offend others." "Oh," I said slowly, "that's excellent." Originally, I had planned to secretly write about Lu Cheng's dereliction of duty in my previous life to his rivals among the officials. Now, it saves me the trouble. I snuggled against Lu Jiao's chest and smiled happily. Tonight is destined to be a sweet dream. I closed my eyes, drifting into sleep unexpectedly. Lu Jiao pressed himself over me. The lamp shadows flickered, and the wind stirred the curtains. When the overlapping figures swayed, fine, fragmented, irrepressible sounds drifted leisurely into the night. Outside the window, the bright moon hung in the sky, sending distant wishes to lovers. This life was Lin Yu's fulfilled one. *****. Lin Hui's side story. When my mother was alive, she always doted on me. Back then, Yua was often unhappy, pouting in discontent. "Mother, you must spoil Yua more." Mother smiled and agreed. Yua took it seriously. Then again, she had always been easy to please. But Niang lied. When she felt her days were numbered, the first person she thought of was still me. She pushed through her illness to arrange a good marriage for me. Only after that did she prepare to make a choice for Yua, but before she could do anything, she died on her deathbed. Yua wept by her bedside. "Mother, I'll be good from now on. Please don't leave me and my sister behind." Perhaps her mother's guilt toward her was too great, so much so that when she died, her eyes remained open. For a long time, kneeling beside her bed, I slowly closed them for her, tears streaming down my face. From then on, she and I depended on each other to survive in the household. Yua is very well behaved. She believes everything I say. After the high fever damaged her brain, she became even more docile. When she woke up, she stood on tiptoes, hugged me as I wept with guilt, and, imitating our mother, gently touched the top of my head with her little hand. "Don't cry, sister, I'm fine." How could it be nothing? She was originally just gullible, but in fact still a sharp kid. Now she can't remember anything. No matter what she learns, She can't do it, she can't even dress herself anymore. The doctor said the high fever caused her intellectual disability, and there's no way to recover. I didn't believe it. Since she can't dress herself, I teach her every single day. Since she can't remember things, I repeat them to her over and over again. She couldn't remember the characters, so I took her hand and wrote them out thousands of times. Although all of the capital was spreading the false rumor that Yua was a simple-minded child, but I knew that wasn't the case for our Yua. Just a few short years, she can read books, write, and even dress herself occasionally. She even gets moody with me. Yua, she's truly wonderful. Since Yua is so wonderful, I should find her a good home. Even more, in those years, I devoured books desperately, building a reputation as a talented woman. Heaven rewards the diligent. My learning eventually earned recognition from the noble families. I could now bring Yua to banquets of higher social standing. I also made many friends through the written word. There are the sons of nobles and also the descendants of officials. I picked and chose, selecting two who are suitable for Yua. What a coincidence. The two of them are brothers born of the same mother. The elder brother inherits the title and is honored as the heir, a man of great talent, yet cold-tongued and sharp, always quick to call out fools. The younger brother, the second son of the Marquis's household, holds no title, but neither does he bear the weight of the family's responsibilities. He is gentle, kind, handsome, and well-learned. Hesitantly, I wrote them a letter highlighting the key points of Yua's situation. After receiving the letter, the elder brother acted as if he hadn't heard a thing. He continued writing back to me, arguing over the classical allusions in the book. Upon receiving the letter, the younger brother remarked, "Your younger sister is quite innocent and adorable." My heart leaped with joy, feeling that Yua's future might lie with my younger brother. Later, I took my younger sister on an outing to the countryside. On the way, we happened to run into them. After returning, my younger brother wrote to me again, "I don't need to inherit a title, and my elders have very low expectations for my wife. If you trust my character, why not entrust your younger sister to me?" Amidst my joy, I also received a letter from my brother. "Those people you associate with bear no goodwill toward Miss Ming II. If you truly care for her, stop bringing her to meet them. If you and Miss Ming ever face difficulties, I can help you. Do I not know that they are unhappy with Yua, but I am running out of time. My engagement to my fiancé has been postponed time and again. Even with a future mother-in-law as kind as can be, it's only natural that she would feel some displeasure. My father even said, if you keep delaying and refuse to marry, then I will go to his family to call off the engagement on your behalf. I will then choose another husband for you. By that time, whether he is older or a widower, you will have to marry him. I really have no time left. There are less than 3 months until my wedding with my fiancé. I truly cannot think of any other way." So I wrote a letter to my younger brother, Lu Cheng, the second young master of the Marquis's manor. I asked if he would be willing to marry Yua as his lawful wife, needing not to love her, but to treat her kindly for a lifetime. Late at night, I read his reply by Yua's bed. He said yes. He asked me to take Yua to attend the poetry gathering at the Marquis's manor. She must compose another good poem at the gathering. His mother admires talented young ladies. For the sake of the poem, she will surely agree to let him marry Yua. Lu Cheng agreed without hesitation. I suspect he was tempted by Yu's beauty. If there were more time, I would find someone even better, but his the most suitable match for you that I can find for now. So I replied, okay. Later, Yua married into the Marquis's household as I had wished, but on the day of her homecoming visit, I realized I had entrusted her to the wrong person. Yua, she didn't seem happy. I asked Yua privately, is he treating you badly? Yua was silent for a moment, then shook her head and whispered, no, he's doing well. Later, I didn't have a chance to find out how Yua was doing. My husband got caught up in a major case and was banished to Lingnan. Before leaving, I went to the Marquis's manor to look for Yua. If he treats you badly, just write and tell me, and I'll come to the capital to take you away. Later, the sky grew vast and the earth stretched far between them. Every time, Yua wrote in her letters that she was doing well. 1 letter a month, never once interrupted. Until 1 month, I suddenly stopped receiving letters. I waited 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. Finally, a letter from Lu Zhao arrived. bringing news of a death. She said Yue had fallen into the water and died. I don't believe it. If Yue really met with misfortune, why didn't Lu Cheng inform me of her death? Unless his conscience is bothering him. I held the letter, carried a dagger in my bosom, and hurried toward the capital. Along the way, I thought to myself, if Yue is truly dead, then Lu Cheng might as well not live either. Husband and wife are one. If Yue lives, he lives. If Yue dies, he dies. That was when I arrived in the capital another late spring. I carried a dagger in my arms, stepping into the Yongning Marquis's mansion, where the white mourning banners still hung. Bonus chapter. Spring arrives earlier in the Lingnan region than in the capital. By the end of March, the peach blossoms have already fallen. Standing in the rear courtyard of the official residence, I gaze at the bare peach tree and suddenly think of that figure standing in the spring light at the corner of the long corridor in the capital's Marquis mansion. Back then, he wore wide sleeves and a long robe, his dark hair tied with a jade hairpin, his features as handsome as someone stepping out of a painting. I once believed he was my destined one, but the term worthy man was merely my own wishful thinking. Minister Lu, a letter from the capital. A subordinate handed over a thin letter. I took it and saw the familiar handwriting on the envelope, neat and elegant, every stroke exuding the bearing of a refined lady. It was Lin Hui's handwriting. I gripped the envelope, my knuckles turning white. In my previous life, Lin Hui never wrote to me. She hated me for tormenting her younger sister, and for causing Lin Yu to drown. The last time she appeared before me, she held a dagger in her hand, her eyes bloodshot, like a maddened beast. If Lu Jiao hadn't stopped her that day, I would have died by her hand, but having been reborn, everything is different now. Lin Yu married Lu Jiao and became my sister-in-law. Lin Hui also married her fiancé and was banished with him to Lingnan, coincidentally ending up with me in Guangzhou Prefecture. Come to think of it, we are now fellow officials serving in the same place. How ironic. I opened the letter. It was just a few lines. Lord Lu, there will be a small gathering at my home the day after tomorrow. Please bring your wife. I also hear that you are skilled in calligraphy, and I would like to trouble you to inscribe a plaque for my study. Polite and distant. No mention of the past life. No mention of Lin Yu. Not even a word about the complicated entanglements between us. It was as if I were just an ordinary colleague, and she just an ordinary colleague's wife. I folded the letter and tucked it into my sleeve. Are you going, my lord? A subordinate asked. I was silent for a long time. Go. 02. Lin Hui's courtyard was not large, but it was kept with great elegance. When I arrived, she was feeding the fish under the veranda, dressed in a pale yellow gown, with a white magnolia hairpin in her bun. Her profile had soft lines, and her eyes and brows carried the gentle charm of a young married woman. But when she looked up, her gaze toward me was cold. That coldness wasn't deliberate, it was an inherent aloofness, like being separated by an invisible layer of ice. Lord Lu has arrived, she said, rising to her feet with a slight nod. I'm feeling unwell today and am not fit to receive guests. Please do not take offense, my lord. No matter. I followed her into the flower hall, where tea and refreshments had already been laid out. She dismissed the servants and personally poured tea for me. Please, sir. I took the teacup and took a sip. It was fine Biluochun tea, fragrant and delicate, her usual favorite in my previous life. I had never sat at the same table and drunk with her back then. She was Lin Yu's elder sister, and I was Lin Yu's husband. She was polite to me, and I was perfunctory with her. The only intersection between us was Lin Yu. Do you know why I invited you here? Sir. Lin Hui looked up at me, her gaze calm. I don't know. I want to ask you something. She paused. Have you ever regretted anything? The teacup in my hand paused slightly. Regret? Which matter was she asking about? Was it regretting picking that poem at the poetry contest? Regretting marrying Lin Yu? Or regretting tormenting her for 10 years and causing her to drown? Regret, I said, saying those two words came more easily than I had expected. Lin Hui seemed not to expect me to be so straightforward, and was momentarily stunned. Then why do you? Because I'm a fool, I interrupted her, smiling self-mockingly. In both this life and the last, I have always been a fool. In my past life, I resented Lin Yu for being dull, resented her for not understanding poetry and literature, resented her for embarrassing me at banquets. But it never occurred to me that she was never meant to be the poet. I was the one who mistook her. I mistook my admiration for Lin Hui's talent as affection for Lin Yu. I married her, only to resent her. How ridiculous. What's even more ridiculous is that, given a second chance in this life, I clearly had the opportunity to make things right, yet I still took one wrong step after another. I thought Lin Yu would wait for me, believing that as long as I settled matters outside the capital and returned to propose, she would marry me just as she did in the previous life. But I forgot that in this life, I didn't want to put her through any hardship, so I didn't arrange an early betrothal in this life. Lu Jiao is no longer the indifferent elder brother watching from the sidelines. He has stepped into the arena himself to compete with me in this life. I no longer have a chance. Minister Lu, Lin Hui's voice called me back to my senses. Do you know why I hate you? I looked into her eyes. Those eyes held no tears, only a deep, lingering sorrow that would not fade. Because you let Yua suffer wrongs, she said, each word deliberate. My sister, whom I treasure like a pearl, was treated worse than a stranger by you. When people mocked her, you didn't stand up for her. When she was wronged, you didn't comfort her. When she fell into the water, you didn't even go to save her. I know, I said, my voice rasping as if filled with gravel. It's my fault, yes. Lin Hui replied, showing me no leniency whatsoever. It is your fault. So this cup of tea, I offer it to you on Yua's behalf, as a way to settle the grudges of the past life. From now on, between you and me, there shall be only professional respect and nothing more. She raised her teacup and drained it in one go. I raised my cup as well and finished that cup of Biluochun tea. Tea is bitter, bitter like those 10 years 03 after leaving Lin Hui's home. Instead of returning directly to the government office, I walked along the riverbank for a long time. The river surges onward under the vast, dusky sky. I recall some things from a past life. The day Lin Yu fell into the water, I was handling official duties in my study. A servant rushed in panic to deliver the news, saying the madam had fallen into the river. I was stunned for a moment, the brush in my hand nearly falling to the ground. Yet I did not get up immediately because at that moment, I actually felt a sense of relief. This thought was so terrifying that I myself dared not face it, but it had indeed existed. As real as can be. She's dead, so I won't have to deal with her dullness anymore, won't have to be mocked at banquets for marrying an unaccomplished wife, and won't have to feel inferior in front of Lu Jiao anymore. What a venomous thought. I can't believe I once had such an idea. By the time I reached the lake, her body had already been pulled out. She lay dripping wet on the shore, her face as pale as paper, her lips purple, water still trickling from her dress. The imperial physician said there was still hope, but I stood at the back of the crowd and did not step forward. I did not even look at her. I merely stood at a distance, watching as the maids carried her back to the courtyard. That night, I went to the study, not because she had fallen into the water, but because I didn't want to face her. I was afraid that after she woke up, she would look at me with those clear eyes and ask why I hadn't saved her. I had no answer. Later, she didn't ask when she woke up. She didn't ask anything at all, as if she didn't know I had stood in the study all night, didn't know that such a vicious thought had once crossed my mind. She just quietly rested and recovered, and when she was well again, she went back to cautiously trying to please me, just like before. But I grew to loathe her even more. I loathed her fawning, loathed her docility, loathed the grateful look she cast at Lu Jiao when he helped me out of a difficult situation. In that lifetime, I was not a good husband. In this lifetime, I still am not a good husband because I couldn't marry the one I wanted. I blamed heaven and earth and took my resentment out on others. I never even considered that Lin Yu was also innocent. She knew nothing. She was merely following her sister's arrangements, marrying a husband who appeared as gentle as jade. But that husband was a complete and utter bastard to the core. 04. It was already dark when I returned to the official office. My subordinate came up and said that the lady had sent someone to ask when I would be back for dinner. Madam, my second wife, after arriving in Lingnan, my mother arranged this marriage for me. She said the woman had a gentle disposition and knew how to manage a household. I have met her once. She is a soft-eyed, tender woman, speaks little, and always keeps her head lowered. Unlike Lin Yu, unlike Lin Hui either. When I returned to the room, She had already prepared the meal and was sitting at the table waiting for me. Seeing me arrive, she stood up and said softly, "Sir, you're back." Yeah, I sat down at the table, and she served me a bowl of soup. The soup was hot, with goji berries and red dates, a flavor I usually like. But I don't like drinking soup, never liked it. Lin Yu never knew either. She always thought I liked it, because in my previous life I never told her that I don't like drinking soup. Every time she made soup and brought it to the study, I had the servants pour it away. She didn't know, my lord. For the day after tomorrow's banquet at the lady's house, should we prepare a gift? My wife asked softly. Prepare one, I said. Use your discretion. She nodded and asked no more. I lowered my head to drink the soup, and suddenly felt it wasn't so bad after all. 05 The banquet was set for 3 days later. I took my wife along. Lin Hui's husband was a gentle and kind-hearted man, always courteous when speaking with me, without a trace of resentment over his demotion. During the meal, Lin Hui mentioned a letter from the capital. I heard that the wife of the Marquis's eldest son is pregnant, she said with a smile, the tenderness in her eyes genuine. Yua is in good health. I imagine this pregnancy will go smoothly. My hand, holding the wine cup, paused slightly. Lin Yu is pregnant, the child of her and Lu Jiao. That is truly joyous news, my wife chimed in. The heir's consort is a woman blessed with good fortune. Lin Hui gave me a glance, her gaze faint, as if looking at a stranger. Yes. She is a fortunate woman, she said. She married a man who truly cares for her. These words were meant for me. I pretended not to understand and lowered my head to drink. The wine went down my throat, pungent and bitter. In her previous life, Lin Yu had also been pregnant twice. The first time she miscarried. The imperial physician said her body was weak and needed proper care. The second time, she gave birth to a daughter, but the child was frail and passed away before reaching 100 days old. What did I do back then? I didn't even go to see her. She cried in her room for 3 days and 3 nights, and I didn't visit her even once. I only sent servants to pass along the message that she was unwell, should not move around, and should rest well indoors. Later I learned that she wasn't physically unwell, she was heartbroken. So heartbroken that she couldn't get out of bed, but I didn't pay it any mind. I thought she was just being dramatic, using the child as an excuse to seek my attention. I even laughed at her in my heart, mocking her for not even being able to do that right. How ridiculous. I was the one who got her pregnant. I was the one who neglected her during her pregnancy. I was the one who gave her that kind of life, and still, I mocked her. When did I become this kind of person? Perhaps it was the first day I married her. Perhaps it was the moment I discovered she hadn't written that poem. Perhaps it was even earlier, so early that I can no longer remember it myself. Commander Lu. Lin Hui's voice pulled me back from my thoughts. Is the wine not to your taste? No. I set down the cup. I was just thinking about something else. Lin Hui glanced at me but didn't press further. 06 After the banquet ended, my wife got into the carriage first. I stood at the door, watching Lin Hui see the guests off. Her husband had already gone back inside, leaving her alone under the corridor. She stood beneath the lantern, the light and shadow stretching her silhouette long. Lord Lu, are you not leaving yet? She asked. There are a few words I wish to say to my wife. She frowned slightly but still nodded. Go ahead. I was silent for a moment, then spoke. Lin Hui, if you hate me, you can tell me directly. There's no need to be so polite. She paused for a moment, then smiled. The smile was faint, so faint that it held almost no warmth. Lord Lu, I don't hate you, she said. I just don't care about you anymore. I don't care. What's more hurtful than hate? Hate at least shows you still care. Not caring means truly letting go. Yua doesn't hate you either, she added. She just doesn't remember you anymore. In this life, her heart holds only Lu Jiao, only their child. Only her own life. You shouldn't have come to Lingnan, Lord Lu. If you had stayed in the capital, you might still catch a distant glimpse of her. But coming here only reminds yourself that you are the one she has forgotten. I stood there, unable to speak for a long time. Lin Hui turned and went back inside. The door closed. The lantern swayed a few times, and the light flickered. I stood for a long while before finally lifting my foot to walk toward the carriage. Inside, my wife had already fallen asleep. She was leaning against the carriage wall, still holding a handkerchief in her hand, embroidered with a branch of orchids. Was it given by Lin Hui? I don't know. I didn't ask either. 07 In the following years, I worked diligently in Lingnan. It's not about making up for anything. Just wanting something to do. Once I have time on my hands, I start thinking about the past. I think of the day Lin Yu got married, red silk rolling everywhere, and her stealing a glance at Lu Jiao from beneath her bridal veil. I think of how she used to tiptoe around me, trying so hard to please, of how her eyes would turn red after I brushed her aside, yet she never dared to cry out loud, remembering that after she fell into the water and woke up, her first words were asking if I was there. The maid said that I was too busy with official duties to come. She asked no further. She didn't even dare let anyone see her disappointment. What kind of heart was that, for me to have ruined it so completely? Sometimes I think, if only I hadn't opened that letter back then, if only I hadn't gone to that poetry gathering that day, if I could live this life over, and never fallen for you again. But there is no if only. The path was one's own choice. If you take a wrong turn, you simply have to keep walking. 08 In the 12th year of the Qianqi era, the emperor issued an imperial decree summoning me back to the capital. By then, I had already been in Lingnan for 7 years. During those 7 years, I served as an official in the same court as Lin Hui's husband. We saw each other all the time and occasionally drank together. He never spoke of Lin Yu and I never asked. The day I returned to the capital, Lin Hui came to see me off. She stood on the dock, the wind lifting her skirt, the white magnolia hairpin in her bun gleaming with a soft luster in the sunlight. Master Lu, may your journey to the capital be smooth and favorable, she said. Thank you. I hesitated for a moment, but still asked the question that had been hidden in my heart for years. Is she doing well? Lin Hui looked at me, some of the coldness in her gaze fading. She's doing very well, she said, and the child is also doing well. Lu Jiao treasures her like a pearl. Every day, besides taking care of the child, she's learning to paint. Her paintings aren't good, but Lu Jiao always praises her, so she paints with more and more enthusiasm. That's good, I said. Lin Hui nodded and turned away. I stood on the deck, watching her figure grow smaller and smaller until it finally disappeared into the crowd. After the ship left the shore, I stood at the bow, watching the surging river. In my previous life, I died in Lingnan during a campaign to suppress bandits. He was struck by a stray arrow and fell from his horse, dying. What happened after his death? I do not know. All I know is that Lin Hui returned to the capital, a dagger concealed in her bosom. She meant to kill me, but I am already dead in this life. I returned to the capital alive, to face those people and things I did not want to face. 09 After returning to the capital, I was assigned a post there. The Marquis's residence was still there, and Lu Jiao had already become the Marquis. Lin Yu was the Marquis's consort. On my first day back in the capital, I ran into her at the palace gate. She was wearing her official Mandarin robe, a phoenix hairpin in her hair, and 2 maids followed beside her. She was plumper than before, with a healthier complexion, and her eyes carried a kind of calm and composure she had never possessed in the past. She looked happy. I stood in the distance and did not step forward. She didn't notice me either. She was looking down, talking to her maid, when suddenly she burst into laughter at something. Her smile was as radiant as the light of spring. In my past life, she never dared to smile like that in front of me. She was always cautious. Even her smile was a restrained one, lips pressed together, afraid to show her teeth in case I thought her not dignified enough. Now, at last, she can laugh freely. How wonderful. I turned and walked in the other direction without a greeting, without announcing who I was. I couldn't even bear to let my gaze linger. I was afraid she would recognize me, even more afraid that she wouldn't. 10 In the following years, we would occasionally encounter each other at palace banquets. Every time she saw me, she would politely bow and address me as second uncle. She had completely no memory of her past life, or rather, she had never known. Under Lu Jiao's protection, she lived a simple and pure life, unaware of all those grievances and entanglements, unaware that I had once hurt her so deeply. She only knew me as Lu Cheng, her husband's younger brother, the one she ought to address as second uncle. That was enough. In the 15th year of Qianqi, the border sent an urgent distress call. I volunteered to go to the north. Before departing, I visited the Marquis's mansion to bid farewell to my elder brother. Lu Jiao received me in his study. He was much more composed than before, with a hint of sternness between his brows. "Are you truly going?" he asked. "Yes." He was silent for a long time, and in the end, he only said, "Take care." I nodded, rose, and took my leave. As I stepped out of the study, I met Lin Yu in the corridor. She was playing in the yard with her child, holding a paper kite that was being tossed about by the wind. Seeing me come out, she stood up and gave a slight bow. "Uncle, are you going on a long journey?" she asked. "Yes, you must take good care of yourself," she said, her gaze sincere, without a trace of perfunctoriness. "Thank you, sister-in-law." I glanced at her, then turned and walked away. Behind me came the laughter of a child and her soft words of advice. "Slow down, don't fall." I didn't look back. 11 The wind and sand are strong in the north. I stand on the city wall, gazing at the distant skyline. This place is far from the capital, and also far from Lingnan, so far that I can pretend those past events never happened, so far that I can pretend to be a competent general, a person with a clear conscience. But I am not. I am just someone who did something wrong and spends the rest of my life making up for it. What I am making up for is not the hurt I caused others, but my own guilt. I know this is very selfish, but I had no other choice. 12 In the winter of the 17th year of the Qianqi era, heavy snow fell in the northern frontier, leading my troops to repel the invaders. I was gravely wounded when lying in the snow. I suddenly recalled the scene just before my death in my previous life. Back then, I was also lying in the snow like this, blood gushing from my wounds, staining the white snow beneath me red. What was I thinking back then? I was thinking of Lin Yu, wondering why I didn't save her the day she fell into the water, wondering why I still turned and walked away each time she tearfully begged me to stay, wondering why I wasn't by her side when she finally fell ill and died on her bed. I thought about many things. No matter how much regret, it cannot bring her back to life. Lying in the snow in this life, what was I thinking about? Still her, wondering how she is doing now, whether Lu Jiao still treats her as well as before, whether she has learned to paint, and which parent her child takes after, wondering if she ever thinks of me. She doesn't, she won't, she forgot me long ago. I never even truly knew myself. What she knew was that gentle and refined second master Lu, not the Lu Cheng who tormented her in every way after their marriage. But Lu Cheng is the real me. That gentle and refined person was just a skin I wore. I lied to her. I deceived her from the very beginning. "Sir, sir." The subordinate's voice came from afar. I closed my eyes and let my consciousness sink into the darkness. 13 When I woke up again, 7 days had already passed. The military doctor said I was lucky. If that blade had been just an inch off, even the gods couldn't have saved me. I smiled and didn't respond. It's fine to live, it's fine to die. In truth, there's not much difference. It's just that during these years in the north, I occasionally received letters from the capital written by Lu Jiao. The letters never mentioned Lin Yu, only speaking of court affairs, border battles, and trivial family matters. I could tell he was carefully avoiding the topic of Lin Yu. He doesn't want me to still have feelings for her, and I truly don't. I'm just used to it, used to keeping a place for her in my heart. Accustomed to thinking of her face in the quiet of every late night. Accustomed to toasting toward the capital city with square wine on each of her birthdays. It's ridiculous, I know, but I have no other way. 14 The 20th year of the Qianqi era, the border passes were pacified. I received an imperial decree to return to the capital that year. I was already 35 years old after my wife remarried me in Lingnan. She has followed me all these years without a single complaint. There isn't deep affection between us, but we treat each other with respect, and life has been bearable. The day I returned to the capital, the entire city's populace lined the streets to welcome me. Riding on horseback, I gazed at the vast crowds on either side, and suddenly spotted a familiar figure among them. It was Lin Hui. She stood in the crowd, her hair already somewhat grey, but she looked vigorous and healthy. Beside her stood a young woman, holding a baby in her arms. It was Lin Yu. She looked a bit older than before, with fine lines at the corners of her eyes. Yet her smile was still just as radiant. She was looking down, playing with the child in her arms, and didn't notice me. As the horse hooves trotted past, I withdrew my gaze. I couldn't look any longer. If I keep watching, I'm afraid I won't be able to stop myself. I can't help but walk up to her, tell her the regrets of those years, tell her the longing of all these years, Tell her what? Tell her that I am the one who once hurt her. Tell her that I am the Lu Cheng she never truly knew. No. She doesn't need to know. All she needs to know is that there is a man named Lu Cheng in this world, her husband's younger brother, the second son of the Marquis's manor, and a general of the great Liang dynasty. That's enough. 15. After returning to the capital, I rarely went out. Aside from attending court sessions, I stayed inside the mansion. My wife occasionally visits the Marquis's residence and tells me about Lin Yu when she returns. She said Lin Yu has recently taken a liking to embroidery and embroidered a painting of 100 children as a gift for the old madam. She said Lin Yu has been learning to make pastries. Her Osmanthus cakes are sickeningly sweet, yet Lu Jiao finishes them every time. She said Lin Yu is pregnant again, and the imperial physician says it's twins. The Marquis is so overjoyed he can't stop smiling. I listened, nodded, and said nothing. My wife seemed to notice something, but she didn't ask. She is a smart woman, so smart that she never asks about things she shouldn't. 16. In the winter of the 23rd year of the Qianqi era, I fell ill in my mansion. The imperial physician said it was a relapse of an old wound and that I needed rest. I lay on the couch, watching the snow outside the window. The snow was falling heavily, just as it had on the northern battlefield that year. My wife sat by the bed, feeding me medicine. My lord, Marquis, and his wife have come to see you, a maidservant announced as she entered. I was stunned for a moment. It's not surprising that Lu Jiao came to see me. Lin Yu came too. I propped myself up and asked someone to invite them in. Lu Jiao walked in first, carrying a box of pastries. You made it, he said. It might not taste very good, but she insisted on bringing it over. I smiled and took the box. Lin Yu followed behind, carrying a little girl in her arms. Second uncle, she called softly, setting the child down. Say hello to second uncle. The little girl called out timidly, then hid back behind Lin Yu, looking at her. I suddenly felt a sting in my eyes. Please take a seat, sister-in-law, I said. She nodded and sat down on the chair beside her. Lu Jiao sat beside her, reaching out to put his arm around her shoulder. They looked good together, a perfect match. Very happy. Second uncle, you need to take good care of yourself and recover, Lin Yu said. Once you're better, come to the Marquis's manor for a meal. I'll cook my signature dish for you. What's your signature dish, sister-in-law? She thought for a moment, then smiled a little sheepishly. Probably Osmanthus cake, though Lu Jiao says it's too sweet. I think it's pretty good myself. Lu Jiao chuckled softly beside her. It is too sweet, but I don't mind. Lin Yu rolled her eyes at him, and the two exchanged a smile. I watched them and couldn't help but smile too. How wonderful. She had finally found someone willing to eat the Osmanthus cakes she made. Even if it's sickeningly sweet, she would still smile and finish it. In her previous life, she never made Osmanthus cakes for me. Maybe she did, but I never knew. In those years, any pastries she made, I had the servants throw away, never even tasted it. Looking back, that was probably the greatest regret of my life. It wasn't failing to marry the person I wanted, it was marrying them, but not cherishing them. 17. After they left, I opened that box of pastries. It was Osmanthus cakes. They didn't look very appealing, somewhat lopsided, but they smelled fragrant. I picked up a piece and took a bite. Sweet, indeed very sweet, cloyingly sweet, but I didn't spit it out bite by bite. I finished that piece of Osmanthus cake. I also finished the remaining pieces in the box. It was too sweet, so sweet it makes you want to cry, but I can't cry. I don't have the right to cry. 18. In the spring of the 24th year of the Qianqi era, my health fluctuated between good and bad. The imperial physician said I probably wouldn't make it past the year. Upon hearing this, my wife's eyes reddened, but she did not weep. She is a strong woman. I held her hand and said, "You've worked so hard all these years." She shook her head and said, "It wasn't hard at all. If I pass away, you should return to your family. I've already arranged for someone to manage the properties you should keep. There'll be enough to ensure you lack nothing for the rest of your life." Finally, she cried, "My lord, please do not say such things." I said no more. Some words need only be said once. In March, the peach blossoms bloomed. I had someone plant a peach tree in the courtyard. The peach blossoms are in full bloom, a tree of pink and white. When the wind blows, petals fall all over the ground. Sitting on the veranda, watching those petals, I suddenly think of the day of the poetry gathering. It was also the season when peach blossoms were in full bloom. At the turn of the long corridor, I saw Lin Yu. She was standing behind her elder sister, head lowered, looking a bit timid, but I recognized her at a single glance, not because she was pretty, but because of her eyes, clear as a mountain stream, without a trace of impurity. Back then, I thought, how wonderful it would be if I could marry such a woman. In the end, I did, but I lost her. Once lost, she can never be found again. 19. In the summer of the 24th year of the Qianqi era, I fell gravely ill. In a daze, I dreamed of my past life. I dreamed of that afternoon when she fell into the water. I stood on the shore, watching as the servants pulled her out. She lay there soaking wet, eyes tightly shut, her face deathly pale. I wanted to walk over, but my feet were nailed to the ground and I couldn't move at all. Then, the dream ended. I opened my eyes and saw my wife sitting by the bed. "My lord, you're awake," she said softly. "The Marquis and his lady came by, but when they saw you were asleep, they didn't dare disturb you. They left something and then went away." She handed me a box. I opened it, and inside was a painting. It was a painting of peach blossoms. The painting was not well done. The branches were crooked, the petals were uneven in size, and the colors were messily applied, but I could tell it was drawn by Lin Yu because next to it was a line of small, clumsy, round handwriting, like that of a child. "Second uncle, get well soon. Lin Yu." I held the painting in my hands, trembling. She no longer remembers her past life, yet she still calls me second uncle, and still brings a painting of her own when visiting me in the hospital, even if the painting isn't very good. Because she is Lin Yu, who in both this life and the previous one clumsily tried to be kind to everyone. How could I have treated her like that in my past life? How could I? 20. I had that painting framed and hung it at the head of my bed. The first thing I see every day when I wake up is that painting, not because it's particularly well painted, but because she painted it. It was she who painted it for me, even if it's just my sister-in-law's care for my second uncle, without any extra meaning. I find it enough, truly enough. 21. In the autumn of the 24th year of the Qianqi era, I departed. On the day I left, a heavy rain poured down. My wife wept by the bedside, while the maids knelt all around. I held on with my last breath, looking out the window through the curtain of rain. It seemed someone was standing under the corridor. Was it Lin Yu, or was I mistaken? I don't know. I close my eyes, and what comes to mind is that year, beneath the peach blossom tree, she stood behind my elder sister, looking at me timidly. If I could live that life over again. No, I've already lived it over once. I didn't catch it. I missed that one and only chance. Well, let's stop here. That's it. 22. After my death, it was said that someone from the Marquis's mansion came to pay their respects. Lu Jiao stood before the morning hall and offered a stick of incense. Lin Yu did not come. She is pregnant and finds it inconvenient to go out, but I know she will surely place a peach blossom in front of my grave every year because she is Lin Yu, who clumsily and stubbornly treated everyone with kindness. That is enough, truly enough. 23. Extra story of Lu Jiao. After Lin Yu married me, I have always been very careful not to let her know about our past life. I am afraid she might remember, afraid she might recall all the harm Lu Cheng caused her, afraid she might remember those painful days. So she didn't know that Lu Cheng was reborn, nor did she know that I was reborn. All she knew was that I treated her well. That was enough. The year Lu Cheng went to Lingnan, Lin Hui wrote to me, asking what she should do. I replied with 2 words, let him go to Lingnan. Let him stay away from Lin Yu. As long as he does not appear before Lin Yu, I will not touch him. During his years in Lingnan, I exchanged letters with Lin Hui's husband and learned that he worked diligently there, and that he had never let go of Lin Yu. But whether he let go or not no longer mattered. Lin Yu is my wife in this life, and in the next, she can only ever be mine. When Lu Cheng returned to the capital, Lin Yu no longer remembered him. She only knew that he was her younger brother, the second son of the Marquis's manor, someone she needed to treat with courtesy. She did not know that he had once been her husband, that he had once hurt her, that he had once caused her to fall into the water and drown. She knew nothing at all. This is good. She doesn't need to know. The day Lu Cheng died in the mansion, I stood under the corridor, watching the rain. For a long time Lin Yu came out of the room and asked me what was wrong. I said it was nothing, just the wind was strong, and told her to go back inside. She nodded, turned around, and went back. She has no idea what I'm thinking. I was thinking, if in a past life, Lu Cheng had been a little kinder to her, even just a tiny bit kinder, just like he is in this life, would she not have fallen into the water? Maybe then they wouldn't have died. Maybe then they would have lived to a ripe old age. But there is no what if. The past life is already over. In this life, she is my wife. I will treat her well. I will make up for all the grievances she suffered in her past life. This is what I owe her. It was also what Lu Cheng owed her, since he couldn't repay it. I would 24. On the day of Lu Cheng's burial, I went to offer incense. The mourning hall was desolate, with only his wife kneeling by the side, weeping, standing before the spirit tablet. I said, "You can rest in peace. I will take good care of you." There was no reply from him, nor would there ever be. I turned and walked out of the mourning hall. The rain outside had already stopped. A rainbow appeared at the edge of the sky, very beautiful. I took a deep breath and stepped toward the carriage. Inside the carriage, Lin Yu was waiting for me. She was holding our daughter in her arms, with a piece of osmanthus cake in her hand, which she was stuffing into her own mouth. Seeing me get into the carriage, she looked up and smiled at me. "My lord, is it cold outside?" "Not cold." I sat down next to her and reached out to put my arm around her shoulder. She leaned close and brought the osmanthus cake to my lips. "Taste it. I just made it." I took a bite. Very sweet, so sweet it's cloying, but I didn't spit it out. I swallowed it. "Is it good?" She looked at me expectantly. "It's good," I said. She smiled. Like a child, I smiled too. Outside the window, the sunlight after the rain spilled in and fell upon her face. She squinted and nestled closer into my arms. "Husband, let's go home." "All right, go home. Go to our home."